Le Rêve glittered with lights. It was the most pretentious establishment in the city of Beaumont. Gilded molding, velvet drapes, and waiters in white gloves. Tonight, they were celebrating the restaurant group's 5th anniversary. Anna stood in the kitchen, wiping sweat from her forehead. She was the group's creative culinary director, though her official title was food technologist, with a salary to match. Every recipe, every signature sauce, the entire farm-to-table concept that had won the restaurant a coveted James Beard Award, it was all her creation. Anna came from the countryside. Simple, hard-working, with a generous heart and an intuitive talent for understanding ingredients. Her husband Edward was the face of the business. Handsome, a socialite, a darling of the press. He loved giving interviews about how he'd spend nights dreaming up new flavor profiles. In reality, he couldn't tell parsley from cilantro. Her mother-in-law, Eleanor, swept into the kitchen. A woman with a severe updo and permanently pursed lips. "Why are you still in your chef's whites? The guests are arriving. Go change. But for God's sake, don't come into the main dining room. Sit somewhere in the corner by the bar. You're ruining the luxury atmosphere with your presence. Your hands are red like a laundress's." "Eleanor, I just finished plating the main course. The foie gras was burning. The sous chef couldn't handle it." "I'm not interested in the details," her mother-in-law interrupted. "Your place is the kitchen. Edward is about to give a speech. Don't get in the way of his moment to shine." Anna sighed, removed her apron, and went to the small staff locker room. Her modest evening dress hung there. She was used to it. Edward always said, "Babe, you know how it is. PR is a delicate thing. Investors love glamour, and you're my wholesome, down-to-earth girl. Not exactly cover material. Your strength is in your casseroles." She loved him and believed they were a team. He was the facade. She was the foundation. Just then, the service entrance buzzed. The security guard, a heavy-set man, called out, "Anna, there's some old guy here for you. Says he's your dad." Anna's face lit up. Dad. Frank Miller hadn't visited them in 2 years. He had his farm out in the county planting season harvest livestock. He was a man of the earth, powerful with large hands, a weather-beaten face, and a graying beard. Anna ran out to the loading dock. Her father was standing there. He was in his Sunday best suit bought a decade ago that hung on him like a sack, but his shirt was clean. Next to him was his old Ford F-150, packed to the brim with sacks of potatoes, crates of apples, and jars of honey. In his hands, he held a massive cooler filled with homemade country hams and smoked sausages. "Annie girl," he boomed, wrapping her in a hug that made her bones creak. "Happy anniversary. Brought you some gifts, all natural from our place. Say hi to Ed for me." Anna buried her face in his shoulder. He smelled of hay, wood smoke, and home. "Daddy, I'm so glad to see you. Come on, let me get you some food. Let's go into the dining room. Ed will be so happy." She led her father through the service corridor, straight into the main hall. She had missed him so much, she'd completely forgotten Eleanor's instructions. They stepped into the glittering room. The music quieted. The guests, women in diamonds, men in tuxedos, all turned. There, in the midst of this splendor, stood Frank Miller, huge cinnamon, holding a cooler of sausage that smelled intoxicatingly of garlic and hickory smoke. The scent of the countryside instantly overpowered the delicate fragrance of expensive perfumes. Edward rushed over to them, his face contorted. "Anna, are you out of your mind?" he hissed, grabbing his wife's elbow. "What is this?" "Ed, this is my dad. He came to congratulate us." Anna smiled. "Look at the wonderful things he brought." Frank held out the cooler to his son-in-law. "Hey there, son. Happy anniversary. We butchered a hog special for you." "Get that away from me." Edward recoiled, pressing a perfumed handkerchief to his nose. "Ugh, it stinks of the barnyard." "Anna, have you lost it? We have the mayor here, a delegation from France, and you drag this in here?" Eleanor glided over. She looked Frank Miller up and down as if he were a cockroach. "My God," she moaned. "How embarrassing. Sir, you must have the wrong door. The soup kitchen is on the other side of town. This is my father, Anna flared up. Eleanor, how dare you? You should be the one who's ashamed, dear, her mother-in-law hissed. Having relatives like this, look at him. Dirt under his fingernails, his boots are scuffed. He's going to ruin the carpets. Frank remained silent. He looked at his son-in-law, at his wife's mother, with the calm, heavy gaze of a man who has seen far worse things in life than the tantrum of a socialite. So I'm not welcome here, son, he asked quietly. Not welcome, Edward squeaked. You're scaring the customers. Get him out of here, Anna now, through the back. And I don't want to see a trace of him or this stinking cooler again. He shoved the cooler with his hand. It tipped, and a link of smoked sausage rolled out onto the polished parquet floor. A titter ran through the room. Security, Edward shouted. Remove this person. Before we continue, please write in the comments which city or state you're listening to this story from. It's always fascinating to know where our listeners are. Enjoy the rest of the story. 2 large security guards approached Frank. Dad, no, Anna cried, trying to stand between them. Ed, you'll regret this. I'll regret it if this hayseed stays here another minute, her husband snapped. Anna, either you get him out or you're out with him. And you can forget about your job. You can go back to the sticks and milk cows. Frank raised a hand, stopping the guards. Don't touch me, he said. His voice had a quality that made the bouncers freeze. I'll leave on my own. I'm not proud. He bent down, picked up the sausage from the floor, wiped it on his sleeve, and placed it back in the cooler. He looked at Edward. You're wrong about this, Ed. Food is sacred, and the people who grow it are too. You're just wrapping paper. Pretty but empty. He turned to Anna. Don't cry, sweetheart. You've got a stressful job. I'll be going. I've got things to do. Planting season's coming up. Dad, I'm coming with you, Anna lunged toward him. No. Frank gently pushed her back. Stay. Take a good look at them. A really good look so you won't have any regrets later. I'll wait in the truck if you change your mind. But for now, stay. This is a life lesson for you. He turned and walked toward the exit, his back straight unbowed. His heavy footsteps echoed in the silent hall. Edward waved a hand in front of his nose in disgust, fanning away the smell of garlic. Well, the show's over, he announced loudly to the guests, instantly putting on his mask of the gracious host. My apologies for that little incident. Local eccentrics, you know how it is. And now, champagne. Anna stood in the middle of the room, humiliated, crushed. She wanted to run, but her father's words, take a good look at them, held her in place. She stepped into the shadow of a column and overheard a conversation. Edward and Eleanor were standing nearby, thinking Anna had gone back to the kitchen. What a family, Eleanor sniffed. Ed, when are you going to divorce her? I can't stand the sight of that country bumpkin anymore. Soon, Mom, be patient. Edward sipped his champagne. The lawyers have already drawn up the papers. We've trademarked all her recipe cards under the Le Rev LLC. The brand is mine. The recipes are mine now. We don't need her anymore. And the divorce, it's all set for next month. I have everything lined up with Christine. Her father, the senator, has promised us access to federal contracts and a national expansion. And Anna, I'll fire Anna for performance issues or for stealing ingredients. We'll find something. Let her go back to her daddy and his manure. Anna pressed her back against the cold marble pillar. There it was. Not just humiliation, betrayal. They had used her, squeezed her dry like a lemon, stolen her work, her talent. And now that she was no longer useful, they were going to throw her out like trash after dragging her father through the mud. Anna wiped her tears. A cold glint appeared in her normally kind, soft eyes, the same glint her father got when he was haggling over grain prices with middlemen. Manure, you say? She whispered. All right, Edward. You're about to find out what real manure is and just how deep you're in it. She turned and walked not to the kitchen but to the service exit. She kicked off her heels to move faster. She ran out to the parking lot. Her father's old Ford was still there. Frank was leaning against the open door, smoking a cigarette and looking up at the stars. Dad, Anna shouted. He turned. Well, sweetheart, seen enough. I've seen enough, Dad. Take me home. For good. What about your job? Your husband? I don't have a husband. Or a job. I only have you. And I have a plan. Frank flicked his cigarette away and squinted shrewdly. A plan is good. And I've got some news for you too, honey. I didn't come all this way for nothing. I wanted to tell you. He opened the truck door. Get in. I'll tell you on the way. Your Eddie is going to love it. Especially the part where I bought a controlling interest in the agricultural holding company that supplies him with all his meat and produce. Anna froze her mouth open. You what? Yeah, I'm a hayseed, Anna. Only my farm covers half the state. And it's called Heartland Farms. Ever heard of it? Heartland Farms. Anna clutched her chest. Dad, that's our main supplier. We'll go out of business in a week without your prime beef. We have an exclusive contract. Had a contract. Frank got behind the wheel and started the engine, which roared like a beast. And now it's showtime. Let's go, honey. Tomorrow Ed is going to have a very bad day. The old Ford rattled down a bumpy country road, leaving the city lights behind. The cab didn't smell like manure, as Edward had claimed, but of expensive pipe tobacco. Frank only smoked his pipe when he was nervous, and fresh apples. Anna sat in the passenger seat, clutching her purse. She had taken off the hated heels and pulled her feet up onto the seat. The tears had dried, leaving salty tracks on her cheeks. Dad, are you serious? She asked quietly. About the holding company, or are you just trying to make me feel better? Frank chuckled, shifting gears. His big hands held the steering wheel steady. Honey, have I ever lied to you? Kept things from you? Yes. Lied? No. He nodded toward the glove compartment. Open it. There's a folder in there. Take a look. Anna popped the latch and pulled out a leather-bound folder. Inside were official documents. Heartland Farms Agricultural Holding Co., CEO and sole proprietor Frank Miller. Anna flipped through the page's profit reports with 9 zeros lists of land holdings in the thousands of acres contracts with national supermarket chains, and an exclusive supply agreement with Le Rev LLC Edwards Restaurant. Dad, Anna looked up. But why? Why were you living in that old house? Why do you drive this old wreck? Why do you wear that suit? Because Anna money likes silence and people need to be tested, Frank said, lighting his pipe. When your mother died, I realized I was surrounded by vultures. They all wanted my money, not me. I wanted you to grow up to be a good person, to choose a husband for love, not for his wallet. So I played poor. I thought your Ed was a decent guy, just a city boy with some airs. Turns out he's rotten to the core. Her father spat out the window. I was giving him supplies at cost, the fool, a 70% discount. I thought, let the kids build something. The prime grade beef that goes for $100 a pound in New York, I was shipping to him for 10. Organic hand-picked vegetables, and he turns his nose up, says it stinks of manure. Well, tomorrow he's going to find out what the real market smells like. The morning at Edward and Eleanor's townhouse didn't start with coffee. It started with a call from the sous chef Tony. Edward, suffering from a hangover after the lavish party, fumbled for his phone. Tony, do you know what time it is? My head is splitting. Mr. Edwards, it's a disaster, Tony yelled into the phone. The delivery didn't come. What delivery? The meat, the vegetables, the dairy. The truck from Heartland Farms never showed up. We have zero prep done. We have the mayor's luncheon today, and my walk-in is empty. Edward sat up in bed. What do you mean it didn't show up? Did they get drunk out in the sticks or something? Call their sales rep. I did. He's not picking up. The secretary said, our contract was terminated effective immediately. What? Edward shot out of bed. On what grounds? We have a contract. There are penalties. He stormed into the living room where Eleanor was sipping a detox smoothie with a face mask on. Mom, those hicks cut off our supply. Who? Anna's father, Eleanor, asked lazily. Oh, the old man's feelings are hurt. Big deal. Anna's probably over there crying on his shoulder right now. Call her, order her to come back and fix it. Tell her to have her daddy apologize and bring the meat." "Right, Anna." Edward dialed his wife's number. "The subscriber you have dialed is not available." She turned off her phone, the bitch. Edward threw his phone onto the couch. "Fine, we'll manage without them." "Tony," he redialed the sous chef. "Listen to me. Take a van, go to the wholesale market, buy any tenderloin you can find, and some vegetables. Mr. Edwards, our menu is designed around their prime-grade beef. You can't buy that at a wholesale market. It's just regular tough beef. Marinate it, pound it harder, drown it in sauce. Are you a chef or not? Figure it out or you're fired." Edward was sure it was a minor inconvenience. He didn't understand the fundamental truth. Le Rêve was built on two pillars: Anna's genius and Frank Miller's unique products. That morning, both pillars had crumbled. Lunchtime. Le Rêve. The VIP room was filled with important guests, the mayor and his wife, and the French food critic they had been fawning over the night before. Edward, in an immaculate suit, personally addressed the table. "Bonjour. Today, we will delight you with our signature ribeye steak, with a wild berry reduction." The guests nodded, anticipating a culinary masterpiece. Meanwhile, the kitchen was chaos. Tony, sweaty and red-faced, was trying to salvage the meat he'd bought from a cheap supplier. It wasn't grain-fed prime beef, it was an old dairy cow that had died of boredom. "It's tough as shoe leather," Tony wailed. "Anna always used a special brine with herbs, but I don't know the recipe." She took her notebook with her. "Just cook it," screamed Eleanor, who had rushed to the kitchen to oversee the disaster. "Pour cream on it. The French love cream. And throw a bunch of parsley on top so you can't see the meat." The waiter brought out the plates. Edward watched from behind a curtain. The critic cut a piece of meat and tried to chew it. His face fell. He delicately spit the piece into his napkin. The mayor was less subtle. "Edward," he barked across the room. "Get over here." Edward scurried over his polished veneer, cracking. "What's wrong, Mr. Mayor? What is this?" The official poked his steak with a fork. "This isn't a ribeye. This is a rubber tire. I almost broke a tooth. Are you trying to poison us?" It's a new supplier, an eco-farm," Edward stammered. "This is a disgrace," the critic interjected in French. The translator relayed, "This is an insult to haute cuisine. The meat is old, the sauce is oversalted, the vegetables are wilted." The guests stood up and left without paying. As he walked out, the critic told the manager, "I will be writing about this. You're more likely to get a star from a bottle of cheap brandy than from Michelin." That evening, a scathing review appeared online. "The Fall of a Dream: How the City's Best Restaurant Became a Cafeteria." Evening the same day. Frank Miller's home. Anna didn't recognize the area. They drove past the usual farmland, turned into a forest, and went through a security gate with armed guards emerging at a sprawling estate. It wasn't a gilded palace like Edward's. It was a modern American masterpiece. A massive cedar log home on the shore of a lake with stables and a helipad where a small Robinson helicopter was parked. "Here we are, honey, my little cabin in the woods," Frank said, parking the old Ford next to a black G-Wagon. "Dad, you fly a helicopter. How else am I supposed to survey the fields? I've got 100,000 acres. It'd take a week in the truck." A housekeeper greeted them inside. The table was set with simple dishes, but made from those same incredible ingredients. Anna ate real bread, drank fresh milk, and cried. "What are you crying for?" Frank stroked her hair. "I'm such an idiot, Dad. For 5 years I tried to please him. I was ashamed of you. I hid the gifts you brought so Ed wouldn't wrinkle his nose. And you're a king, Dad, and I was serving jesters. Don't worry about it. Experience is what you get when you don't get what you want. Tell me something. Do you love to cook? More than life itself. Then cook. Tomorrow we have a board meeting at the holding company. Some important people are coming, partners from China, from New York. Cook for them. Show them what you can do. What about ingredients? Take whatever you want. The warehouse is yours. And the recipes, Ed said. He trademarked them. Frank laughed. Honey, you can't trademark your grandmother's biscuit recipe. But the flavor is in your hands and in your heart. Let him surround himself with paperwork. If his hands are useless and his ingredients are garbage, no trademark in the world can help him. A week passed. Le Rêve was hemorrhaging money. Regulars stopped coming. Online reviews plummeted. Used to be divine, now it's like a bus station diner. Where's that signature pâté? They served me some kind of paste. Rude waiters, cold food. Bring back the real chef. Edward was furious. He tried to find new suppliers, only to discover a terrible truth. Every single farm-to-table supplier within a 200-mile radius was either owned by or dependent on Heartland Farms. Everywhere he called, he heard the same thing. Sorry, our entire output is already under contract. By whom? Frank Miller's holding company. Edward ground his teeth. That old bastard is trying to strangle me. Mom, we have to do something. We need to go to him, Eleanor decided. Bow our heads, say we got carried away. Buy him a bottle of whiskey. Country folk are forgiving. We'll cry, say Anna, left on her own, and we're heartbroken. He'll soften up and restore the deliveries. They got into Edward's Mercedes and drove to the address on the old contract, the legal address of the original farm co-op. They arrived in the small rural town and found the office an old brick building with an American flag out front. Inside, a secretary, in her 50s, was drinking tea. We need to see Frank Miller, Eleanor announced, adjusting her mink stole. We're family. Frank, the secretary, adjusted her glasses. Oh, he's not here. He's at the central office. And where's the central office? In a barn? No, dear. It's in the Citadel Tower downtown. The 20th floor. Edward and Eleanor exchanged a look. The Citadel, that was the most expensive office building in the region. Yep, the whole holding company is there. This is just the dispatch office for the tractor crews. They drove back to the city in stunned silence. The Citadel Tower, a sleek skyscraper of glass and steel. They approached the reception desk. We're here to see Frank Miller, from Heartland Farms. The receptionist looked at them with respect. Do you have an appointment? Mr. Miller is a very busy man. He has a meeting with the Secretary of Agriculture in half an hour. With the secretary, Edward's jaw dropped. Please tell him his son-in-law, Edward, is here. It's a matter of life and death. The receptionist made a call. Mr. Miller and Edward is here. Says he's your son-in-law. A pause. Very well, please go on up. 20th floor penthouse. They took the elevator. The doors opened. They were expecting a folksy office with wood paneling and a portrait of a prize-winning bull. They saw a high-tech space of glass and chrome massive screens showing grain commodity prices and managers in expensive suits rushing about. A secretary who looked like a model led them to the main office. The office was the size of their entire restaurant. Behind a massive oak desk sat Frank Miller, but not in his old suit. He wore a bespoke Italian suit that fit his powerful frame perfectly. An expensive watch was on his wrist. Standing next to him holding a tablet was Anna. She was wearing a sharp business suit with a new haircut. She didn't look like a homespun housewife. She looked like a CEO. Edward and Eleanor froze in the doorway. Well, hello there, Frank rumbled, not getting up. Come for some more sausage, or maybe to borrow a cup of manure. Frank, Eleanor stammered, slumping against the doorframe. What's all this? This, my dear, is my farm. Like it. Edward was the first to recover. Greed overpowered his shock. He saw the luxury, the power, and understood the colossal mistake he'd made. He rushed to the desk, arms outstretched. Dad, Frank, what was all that masquerade? You're such a kidder, and we were too foolish to get the joke. He turned to Anna. Anna, darling, stop sulking. We were just having a bit of fun. Pack your things and come home. The restaurant is dying without you. And he glanced at Frank. Without Dad's support, we're family. He tried to take Anna's hand. She snatched it away as if from a hot stove. Family, she repeated. Family is for better or for worse, not get this scarecrow out of here. She tapped her tablet. A presentation appeared on the large wall screen. The title? Rebranding the Heartland Farms Restaurant Group. The concept? Real food for real people. Ed, I'm not coming back, Anna said calmly. I'm the creative director of the holding company now. We're opening our own chain 5 restaurants in the city, 10 in the county. Our own meat, our own vegetables, honest prices. And you know where the flagship restaurant will be? Where Edward whispered. Right across the street from Le Rêve. We bought the old bank building. We'll be looking at you window to window. Frank smirked. And we're going to call it the Barn, just to spite our enemies. What do you think, Ed? Where will people go to you to eat rubber for $500 a plate? Or to us for a real steak from Anna for $50? Edward went pale. This was the end. If they opened across the street, his business was finished. You wouldn't dare, he shrieked. I have trademarks, I have connections. Christine, my fiancée, the senator's daughter. Christine. Frank shuffled a paper on his desk. Christine Vance, daughter of Senator Peter Vance. Yes, he'll destroy you. Peter Vance called me this morning, Frank said lazily. Asked me to expedite a grain shipment for his elevators. We go way back 20 years. I told him how you treated my daughter and how you were stringing along his daughter while still married. You know what he said. Edward's knees began to tremble. He said, your foot will never cross his doorstep again and that he's sending you some visitors. The health department, the fire marshal, the IRS. So get ready, son-in-law. Things are about to get hot. Eleanor suddenly dropped to her knees on the expensive carpet. Frankie, oh Frank, forgive an old fool. The devil made me do it. We'll give everything back. Anna, sweetie, come back. I'll wash your feet. Ed, get on your knees. She tugged at her son's sleeve. Edward, broken, collapsed next to his mother. We're sorry. We didn't know. Frank stood up, a mountain of a man. He walked over to them, looking down. You didn't know I had money? He asked quietly. And what if I didn't? What if I really was just a poor farmer? You would have thrown us out just the same, wouldn't you? Edward was silent. And that's the whole point, Frank said. You don't value people for who they are, but for what they have. And a wallet can be filled or emptied. But a conscience, once you've sold it, you can't buy it back. He pressed a button on his intercom. Security, please escort these people out. They're polluting the air with their cheap perfume. 2 security guards in suits, not bouncers, politely but firmly lifted Edward and Eleanor to their feet. Get out, Anna said, and lose my number. The divorce will be handled by my lawyers. We're not splitting assets. You can have your debts and your empty restaurant. I don't want anything that was yours. I have my own now. The war had been declared, and the front line was Main Street. On one side, in the pompous building with columns, Le Rêve was dying. On the other, in the former bank building with huge plate glass windows, the Barn was being born. Edward and Eleanor watched the construction from the window of their VIP room. They were drinking cheap coffee. The supply of gourmet beans had also been cut off. They'd had to buy a can from the supermarket. Look at them, Eleanor yanked the velvet curtain. They're hanging the sign. The Barn. How tacky. Who would go there? Decent people wouldn't be caught dead in a place like that. It's for tractor drivers. Don't be so sure, Mom, Edward replied grimly. That rustic chic look is in right now. They have an expensive design, reclaimed wood, a living moss wall, an open kitchen. Anna knows what she's doing. It's not Anna, it's her father. He's got more money than God, so he's playing games. Eleanor nervously patted her hair. Never mind, we'll destroy them. I have a plan. Eleanor's plan was as simple and vile as she was. If you can't win on quality, and winning on quality was impossible, as suppliers fled Le Rêve like rats from a sinking ship, you have to win with cunning. Ed called the health department. I have a friend there, Linda. Tell her you saw them bringing in rotten meat and rats into the barn. Have her schedule a surprise inspection right before they open. They'll never get their license. And I'll contact some food bloggers. Edward added, his spirits lifting. Pay for some negative PR. Have them write that Anna has worms and that her father uses illegal pesticides on his tomatoes. Brilliant, son. Get on it. 3 days later, the health inspectors descended on the barn. Anna was in the kitchen testing a new bread oven. 3 stern women in white coats with clipboards entered the dining room. Health department. We've received an anonymous tip regarding unsanitary conditions. Anna calmly wiped her hands. Please come in. Booties and hairnets are by the door. The inspectors, anticipating a field day, Linda had promised to find a violation, no matter what, began their tour. They looked for dirt, for expired food, for roaches. What they found was a surgical suite, spotless gleaming, stainless steel. Every product was labeled with a precision that would make a pharmacist proud. The walk-in coolers held the freshest meat, bearing the Heartland Farms stamp. Vegetables smelled of summer, not plastic. Where are the chemicals? One inspector asked, opening a cabinet of cleaning supplies. We only use certified organic eco-friendly cleaners, Anna smiled. Our concept is clean food. Would you like to try some mozzarella? We just made it this morning from the morning's milking. The inspectors didn't hold out for long. Half an hour later, the Stern Commission was sitting at a table, devouring fresh cheese and homemade bread. Anna, the lead inspector, said, her mouth full, rolling her eyes in pleasure. This is divine. I'll tell Linda the tip was bogus. When do you open? I want to bring my husband. He loves a good burger, and you can't find one these days. The burgers will be here, Anna promised. Hand ground from 3 cuts of beef. Come on Friday. The blogger attack also failed. Edward paid a popular food vlogger, Gordo the Gourmet, $5,000 for a takedown review. Gordo came to the soft opening. He turned on his camera, ready to sling mud. They brought him a bowl of chili, real Texas-style chili, thick and rich, with a side of cornbread slathered in honey butter. Gordo took a spoonful, then another. Then he turned off his camera, ate the entire bowl, ordered a slice of pecan pie, and then started a live stream. Folks, he yelled into his phone, forget everything I ever said about fancy places. I am in heaven right now. It's called the barn, and I want to live here. The chili is like my grandma's, only better. Edward from Le Rêve offered me cash to trash this place, but I can't do it. My conscience won't let me, and neither will my stomach. Everybody get down here. Edward watched the stream sitting in the empty dining room of his restaurant and tore at his hair, which was already thinning from stress. Traitors, he shrieked. Traitors everywhere. Mom, what do we do? Opening day. Main Street was gridlocked. The line for the barn stretched around the block. People stood outside, waiting for a table. The aroma of freshly baked bread and meat, grilling over charcoal, was driving the city mad. At the entrance, Frank Miller himself was greeting guests. He wasn't in a suit, but a stylish apron over a plaid shirt. Come on in, folks, he boomed. Plenty of room for everyone. First round of my homemade apple pie moonshine is on the house. Anna was flying around the kitchen. She was happy. She was feeding people, and the people were grateful. The dining room was full of everyone, students, business people, politicians, families with kids. The concept of honest food was a smash hit. People were tired of pretentious foams and microscopic portions for exorbitant prices. They wanted delicious steak, crisp pickles, and real bread. And across the street, in the windows of Le Rêve, stood 2 lonely figures, Edward and Eleanor. They had 2 tables occupied in the entire restaurant. One held some random tourists who didn't know about the barn yet. The other held their accountant, who was sadly picking at yesterday's salad. They're stealing our customers. Eleanor was close to tears. Ed, do something. Look at that line. We're going bankrupt. I have one last card to play. Edward's eyes were bloodshot. Christine, the senator's daughter. She promised she'd come tonight. If I can convince her, her father will shut this dump down with one phone call. He'll say there's a fire code violation or that they're dealing drugs. Call her, now. Set the best table, get out that vintage champagne we were saving for New Year's. Christine Vance arrived an hour later. Edward met her at the door, bowing and scraping. Christine, my queen, come in, anything for you. He seated her at the best table by the window, from which unfortunately the line to his ex-wife's restaurant was clearly visible. Christine, I need your help. Edward began pouring the champagne. My business is being crushed by unfair competition. Your father, he's a man of justice. Maybe he could help send some inspectors over. Christine looked at him, then at the window. Ed, what's all that commotion over there? Oh, it's a diner for peasants. Edward sneered. The barn. My ex-wife opened it. It's an embarrassment. The barn, Christine's eyes lit up. Wait, I saw that on Instagram. They say the steaks are incredible and they have moonshine infusions. Christine, you don't understand. I'm asking for your help to shut them down. Shut them down, Christine stood up. Ed, you're boring, and your food is boring. I'm hungry and this place smells like old money and desperation. She grabbed her purse. I'm going over there. I heard it's fun. Christine, wait. Edward grabbed her arm. You can't. We're a couple. We were a couple when you were a successful restaurateur, the senator's daughter replied coldly. Now you're a loser who's picking fights with his ex-wife. It's not sexy, Ed. And my dad said you're a fraud. He forbade me from seeing you. I just came to see for myself. She yanked her arm away and walked out. Edward watched as she crossed the street, got in the back of the line at the barn, and was immediately spotted by Frank Miller, who with a gallant bow escorted her inside past the line. He knew everyone who mattered. This was the end. Eleanor, who had witnessed the scene, slowly sank into a chair. Ed, she whispered, bring the brandy. All of it. We're closing. But Edward couldn't just give up. The alcohol and desperation went to his head. No, he screamed, hurling a bottle against the wall. I won't let her win. This is my city, my customers. She stole my life. I'll give them an opening night they'll never forget. He ran to the back room and found an old can of lighter fluid for the fireplace. Ed, what are you doing? His mother cried, terrified. You'll go to jail. They won't catch me. I'll be quiet. I'll sneak in the back, set their dumpsters on fire. The smoke will go into the dining room. The alarms will go off. Everyone will panic. It'll be a scandal. Their reputation will be ruined. He pulled on a black hoodie, grabbed the can, and slipped out the back door of Le Rêve. He ran across the street, hiding in the shadows, and circled around the back of the barn. There they were, the dumpsters pushed right up against the kitchen wall. If he lit them, the smoke would be sucked into the ventilation system instantly. With trembling hands, Edward unscrewed the cap and splashed the fluid onto some cardboard boxes. He flicked his lighter. The flame leaped up bright and cheerful. Burn, you barn, burn, he whispered gleefully. He was about to run when he heard a quiet but very convincing sound from behind him. The click of a pistol's safety being disengaged. Freeze, hands on your head. Edward froze. He slowly turned around. Two men stood before him. Solidly built in tactical gear, with no insignia, but with very serious expressions. It was Frank Miller's personal security team, something Edward had forgotten about. Billionaires, even agricultural ones, have 24/7 protection. What are you doing? I was just getting warm. Edward bleated, trying to hide the can behind his back. One of the guards walked over, kicked the can away, while the other produced a fire extinguisher and put out the small fire in seconds. Getting warm, huh? With a can of lighter fluid next to a ventilation intake. It's a mistake. I'm a neighbor. I'm Edward. We know who you are, the guard said, pulling out a radio. Control, we have the arsonist. Caught him red-handed. Yes, the former son-in-law. What are your orders, police? The radio crackled. Frank Miller's voice came through crisp and clear. Police, no, don't bother with the police. Bring him in here. To the dining room. We're about to make a toast. He can listen in. The guards grabbed Edward by the arms. No, not in there. Let me go. I'll leave. But they weren't listening. They dragged him through the service entrance and straight into the kitchen. Anna, seeing her ex-husband dangling between two guards, froze with a ladle in her hand. Ed, what are you doing here? Trying to burn us down, the bastard, one of the guards said calmly. Was going for the ventilation system. Anna's eyes widened. You tried to burn down my restaurant, with all these people inside. I just wanted to scare you, Edward shrieked. Anna, tell them to let me go. They hauled him into the main dining room. The music stopped. 200 people stared at the scene. In the center, Frank Miller stood with a microphone. The guards threw Edward at his feet. His hood fell off. Everyone recognized the owner of Le Rêve. Here you have it, dear guests, Frank said loudly. A fine example of local competition. This man wanted to start a fire to ruin your evening, to burn down the livelihood of his own ex-wife. A murmur of outrage spread through the room. Christine Vance, the senator's daughter, stood up and walked closer. She pulled out her phone and started recording. Ed, you're scum, she said loudly. You're not just a loser. You're a criminal. My father was right. Christine, don't film me, Edward sobbed, covering his face. Frank leaned down to him. I could hand you over to the cops, Ed. You'd get 5 years for arson, but I'm in a good mood today. It's a celebration. My daughter is happy. My future grandkids will be well fed. He straightened up. So I'm giving you a choice. Either we call the police right now and you go to jail, or you take this microphone, apologize to Anna, in front of everyone, admit that you're nothing without her and that your food is garbage. And then you get out of this city and never come back. Edward looked at the guards, at the angry faces of the guests, at the phone cameras pointed at him, and at Anna, who had come out and was looking at him with pity. His voice trembled. He took the microphone. I'm sorry, he croaked. I was wrong. Anna, you're the best chef. I'm nothing without you. My restaurant is a sham. Forgive me. I'll leave. Louder, someone shouted from the crowd. I am a jealous failure, forgive me. Edward screamed, his voice breaking into a squeal. He dropped the microphone and, covering his face, ran for the exit. The crowd parted, letting him pass with disgust. Someone threw a piece of bread after him. Here, eat it. Frank put his arm around his daughter. Well, that's that, Anna. Closure, as you city folks say. Thanks, Dad. Anna buried her face in his chest. And now, music, Frank commanded. Fiddler, play us a tune. The next morning, Le Rêve did not open. A sign hung on the door, for sale. Urgent. Edward and Eleanor packed their things in one night. They knew that after a humiliation like that, they couldn't live in this city anymore. No supplier, no customer, no official would ever shake their hand again. They left quietly at dawn. Rumor has it they went down south to open a hot dog stand on the highway, and the barn became a national sensation. A year later, Anna won her first Michelin star, a real one. She went to the awards ceremony with her father. Frank wore his favorite old suit, and no one, absolutely no one in the room dared to say he looked like a scarecrow, because everyone knew this man fed half the country, and it was better to be his friend. They say a cornered rat will leap at a wolfhound. Edward and Eleanor were exactly those rats. After their shameful exile, they didn't go south. Their Mercedes, the only thing left of their former luxury, as it was a lease they hadn't yet defaulted on, was parked outside a cheap motel on the edge of an industrial park. The room smelled of damp and stale cigarettes. We've lost everything, Eleanor wailed, sitting on the sagging mattress. Everything. Our reputation, our business, our friends. We're outcasts, Ed. There's nothing left for us. Edward sat by the window, staring at the gray smokestacks of a factory, a glass of cheap vodka in his hand. Shut up, Mom, he said wearily. Let me think. Think about what we need to run before our creditors tear us apart. We have millions in debt. Running is for losers. Edward turned a feverish glint in his eyes. You heard what that old bastard said. The divorce will be handled by my lawyers. So, What does that mean? It means we'll get divorced. You have nothing. There's nothing to divide. You're wrong, Mom. Edward gave a twisted smile. I have nothing. But what about her? What does Anna have? She has that restaurant now. Exactly. A restaurant. A business equipment worth millions. And all of it, Mom, pay attention, was created during the marriage. Eleanor stopped crying. She looked at her son with interest. But her father gave her the money. And who can prove that? Edward stood up, squaring his shoulders. Legally, Frank probably structured it as a gift to his daughter or a loan. If it's a gift, it can't be divided. But if Anna invested even $1 from our family budget, or if she started the business before the divorce was final, then by law, half of all income and assets acquired during the marriage belong to the spouse. Are you saying? I'm saying, we're not leaving Mom. We're filing for a division of assets. We're going to sue her for half of the barn. And alimony, I'm unemployed now, a victim of her psychological abuse. And she's a successful restaurateur. Let her support her husband while he recovers from his depression. Anna was on a roll. The barn had been open for a month and was breaking all records. Reservations were booked solid for weeks. Her father had flown to China for negotiations, leaving Anna in charge. You manage, honey? He'd asked before boarding his private jet. Dad, I manage the kitchen with 40 men with knives. I'll manage. Monday morning started with a staff meeting. Chef reported her new sous chef, a talented guy she'd lured from New York. The duck delivery is here. Quality is amazing. But there's a problem. The credit card terminal is down, and our bank account is frozen. The accountant says something about a court order. Anna frowned. Must be a bank error. I'll sort it out. She went to her modest office. On her desk was a certified letter from the county court. Anna tore it open. A lawsuit for the division of marital property and a claim for spousal support. Plaintiff Edward Monroe. Defendant Anna Monroe. Amount of claim, 50% ownership of the barn. $5 million for emotional distress and $10,000 a month in alimony. Anna read the letters blurring before her eyes. He was demanding half of her restaurant, the one her father had built, the one she had created with her own sweat and tears while he was trying to burn it down. At the bottom was a note the court had granted a motion to freeze the defendant's assets pending the outcome of the case. That's why the terminal wasn't working. He had frozen her business while her father was in China. There was a knock on the door. Before she could answer, Edward walked in. He wasn't alone. With him was a slimy lawyer in a cheap suit known around town as a bottom feeder, and 2 men from a private security firm. Hello, darling. Edward smiled, that same smug grin Anna dreamed of wiping off his face with a cast iron skillet. How's business? Booming good. Get out, Anna said quietly. Your security is currently having coffee down the street, the lawyer snickered. And these gentlemen are the new employees. Mr. Monroe, as your legal husband and claimant to 50% of the assets, has the right to appoint his own security to protect the joint property. What joint property? Anna jumped up. This was my father's money. Prove it in court, the lawyer shrugged. And until then, Mr. Monroe will be exercising his oversight to ensure you don't, shall we say, misappropriate assets. Edward walked to Anna's chair, unceremoniously shoved her laptop aside, and sat down, propping his feet on the desk. Make me some coffee, wife. And my mother too. She'll be here in a minute to consult on the menu. We've decided to bring a little class back. The foie gras is coming back. We're getting rid of those peasant dumplings of yours. You wouldn't dare, Anna whispered. Dad's in China, Edward yawned. And from what I hear, he's having some trouble there. Customs held up a big shipment. He's a little too busy for you right now, so you're on your own, Anna. He leaned in. You have 2 options. 1, we fight this out in court for years. Your accounts are frozen, suppliers leave, the restaurant goes bankrupt, and you're left with nothing. Or 2, you sign a settlement agreement, give me 50% of the profits for life, and make my mother the general manager. And I, in my generosity, will allow you to stay in the kitchen and flip burgers. You're a monster, Ed. I'm a businessman. Babe, learn. Eleanor floated into the room already sporting a fresh blowout. Ugh, it smells like dough in here, she wrinkled her nose. Ed, first things first, we need to replace this staff. They're all so common. We need models. Anna looked at them, these parasites, who had latched onto her again like ticks. She wanted to cry, to scream, to call her dad. But her dad had taught her, in a fight, don't cry. Fight. Frank was unreachable, but he had left her more than just money. He had left her his team. Anna picked up her phone. I'm going to call my lawyer, she said. Call the Pope for all I care, Edward waved her off. Our paperwork is ironclad. The marriage isn't dissolved, the property was acquired. Time to share greedy. Anna left the office. She didn't call a lawyer. She called the number for the head of security at Heartland Farms, Victor, a former Green Beret colonel, a man who had been through 2 wars and was only afraid of Frank Miller, and even that was more like deep respect. Victor, it's Anna. We have an emergency. A hostile takeover. Edward? Yes. With private security. They're in my office blocking operations. Understood, Miss Miller. The colonel's voice was calm as granite. Lock yourself in the kitchen. Give us 15 minutes. Victor, no violence. Dad would be upset. Don't you worry. We'll be polite. Farm-style polite. Anna went back to the kitchen. Her cooks looked at her terrified. Edward's security goons were already roaming the prep stations, sticking their fingers in sauces. Hey cook, one of them yelled. Fry me up a steak medium rare. The new boss said it's on the house. Anna picked up her largest chef's knife and began to sharpen it on a steel rod. Xing xing xing. The rhythmic menacing sound filled the kitchen. You'll get your steak, she said, without looking up. With blood. If you're not out of my kitchen in 5 minutes. The goon chuckled, but stepped back. The look in the cook's eyes was not friendly. 12 minutes later, it wasn't black SUVs that pulled up to the restaurant. It was 3 massive grain trucks and 2 huge John Deere tractors with front-end loaders. They blocked off Main Street, sealing the entrance and exit to the barn. Men climbed out of the cabs, not commandos in masks, but simple farmhands from Heartland Farms. Combine operators, tractor drivers, warehouse workers, 40 men in greasy overalls, carrying tire irons and heavy-duty wrenches. Leading them was Victor in a suit, but with a very heavy gaze. They filed into the restaurant. Edward's 3 security guys tensed up. Stand down, Victor said quietly. Boys, what company are you with? Shield and Sword Security. Got a license for that. Because, if I check. Behind him, 40 men silently tapped their wrenches against their palms. The security guys exchanged a look. Their pay was low, and they only had 1 life. We were just on a call. They told us to guard the property. Your shift is over, Victor said. Scram before my boys turn you into fertilizer. Edward's security team vanished. Victor walked to Anna's office and kicked the door. The expensive wood splintered off its hinges. Edward was in the chair sipping coffee. Eleanor was applying lipstick. The lawyer was shuffling papers. Seeing the colonel and the crowd of grim-faced men behind him, Edward choked. Who are you? He squeaked. This is private property. I'm calling the police. Go ahead, Victor said, sitting on the edge of the desk. And while they're on their way, we'll talk. About the division of assets. I have a lawyer, Edward, hid behind a shyster. The lawyer, seeing the size of the backup, tried to blend in with the wallpaper. I'm merely a consultant. I was just leaving. Sit down, Victor barked. He pulled a document from his briefcase. Miss Miller, please come in. Anna entered, still clutching the knife. Anna, sign here, please. It's a loan agreement. Backdated. What? Anna was confused. Your father anticipated that this maggot, he nodded at Edward, would try to pull something like this. So all the money for the restaurant $10 million was officially transferred to you, as a targeted business loan from Heartland Farms, with the entire restaurant as collateral. Repayable in 1 year. Victor turned to Edward. You want half the business, Ed, no problem. By law, when you divide assets, you also divide the debts. What debts? Edward paled. The $10 million debt to Heartland Farms, plus interest. If you claim the restaurant is a joint asset, you're also claiming the debt is a joint debt. You owe us $5 million, and payment was due yesterday. The Colonel smiled. We're prepared to collect on that debt right now. You look like you have 2 healthy kidneys. We won't get the full $5 million, of course, but it's a start. This is fraud, Eleanor screamed. You forged it. A forensic analysis will prove otherwise, Victor replied calmly. The paper is aged. The ink is dry. Frank Miller is not a stupid man, ma'am. He knew who he was dealing with. Edward looked at the contract, at the Colonel, at the crowd of farmhands with wrenches in the hallway. I withdraw my lawsuit, he stammered. I can't hear you, Victor leaned closer. I withdraw the lawsuit, Edward screamed. Take your damn restaurant. I don't want anything, just let us go. We'll let you go, the Colonel nodded. On one condition. What? You and your mother. Right now, you put on aprons and you go out there. The floor is dirty from all the foot traffic you brought in. You will not leave until you have scrubbed this entire restaurant. The restrooms too. Me mop a floor, Eleanor looked like she was about to faint. I'm a respected member of society. You're dirt, Anna said, walking up to her. And your place is with a mop. It's either that or a $5 million debt. Your choice. That day became a local legend. The patrons of the barn witnessed a unique floor show. The former owner of the pretentious Le Rev Edward and his socialite mother Eleanor, wearing rubber gloves and hauling buckets, scrubbed the floors of his ex-wife's restaurant. Edward cried, smearing snot across his face. Eleanor cursed the world, crawling on her hands and knees under tables. Guests filmed it on their phones. The live stream was hosted by Gordo the Gourmet himself. Folks, he narrated now, this is what I call service at the barn. Even the former billionaires mop the floors, quality guaranteed. Anna stood in her kitchen, watching the security monitor. She felt no pity for them. They had gotten what they deserved. Not prison, not a beating, but work. The same hard, dirty work they had always despised. Victor came up beside her. Frank called, said he's proud of you. And he asked me to tell you, manure makes the best fertilizer. It's where the most beautiful flowers grow. Anna smiled. Tell Dad I love him. And to bring back some Peking duck. I have a new idea for the menu. Edward and Eleanor finished scrubbing around midnight. They were let out the back door, filthy wet and utterly defeated. They walked back to their motel because their Mercedes had been towed for being illegally parked. Victor had made sure of it. I'll get my revenge, Eleanor whispered, her teeth chattering. Shut up, Mom, Edward said, his voice void of all emotion. Just shut up. We lost. Let's go to work. Where? McDonald's. They're always hiring cleaners. And now, we have experience. Thank you for being with me. If you enjoy stories like this, please support the channel with a like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments what surprised you most about this story, and you can choose the next story on your screen.